Let's get into best and worst for you.
Best and worst. Let's start with college. What do you guys got for your college best this weekend?
My best, and not to stick in the SEC too much, is Jalen Milroe coming in against Arkansas when the game tightened, and not panicking. Is the playbook as wide open with what Bryce is able to do in the pass game compared to Jalen? They're two totally different players. But if you look at the context of that game and what happened, Bryce goes out, Alabama's beating him up. But here comes Arkansas a little bit. They get it down to a 5-point game. And Blaine made a point yesterday. I think it was Blaine. It may have been you, but I think it was Blaine. Jalen Milroe had 2 huge plays on 3rd down to continue drives. That to me, we always talk about, guys saying, oh, I got to stay ready. Oh, I got to stay ready. And somebody would be like, yeah, right. Bryce Young, dude's probably going to win the Heisman again. We see him. He rarely gets squared up to take a hit. But you never know when it's going to be your shot and your opportunity. And that crowd was still raucous. They were coming back. People were starting to feel it. You're up 5. Arkansas doesn't get the 2-point conversion. What does Jalen Milroe do? He doesn't come out and panic. They don't go into a shell on offense, even after not getting much on the first 2 downs, and he breaks a 70-yard run to kind of break the back a little bit of Arkansas, takes it in to score. They get a couple stops, and then Jahmyr Gibbs takes over. I think what Jalen Milroe did, not from a flashiness standpoint, not from like you came in there and you were just darting it around, you were making all the right reads. He did what he had to do, and he didn't panic, but he played to his strengths. And Bill O'Brien and that offensive staff played to his strengths. They didn't panic. That's one of the reasons I think when you saw Saban in that post-game interview, when they were like, Bryce Young, is he okay? He's like, can we talk about what the other guys did on the road in a hostile environment and when Arkansas had to have, who had a lot of expectations, who were coming back from the depths after being down 28-0, and our backup quarterback steps in there, has 2 huge drives, operates the offense efficiently, doesn't turn the ball over, and doesn't put us in a bad position. I think you got to take your hat off to Jalen Milroe because you kind of found out what kind of person he was coming into that game, and that he does belong on this stage, and that's why you always stay ready, and that's why you prepare like you're going to start.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
That's exactly right.
All right, I came in here prepared to talk about UConn with a big win for Fresno State.
Right? Fresno State,
you talk about Jim doing, man. I mean, look, it's amazing. Or maybe TCU was a candidate that I was going to talk about. Dog walking Oklahoma, remaining unbeaten. But I've got to go Georgia Tech. I have to go Georgia Tech as my best because they beat a good Pitt team 26-21 a week after your head coach gets fired. Jeff Collins, you rally around, you stay strong for your coach who was let go. This is what I thought Nebraska might do against Oklahoma when they came.
They went out and scored in the first drive and looked like world beaters.
First drive, then they got blown out by Oklahoma. Georgia Tech, I don't expect this to continue for the rest of the season necessarily. At some point, you have the guys you have. But man, if your head coach just got fired, just think about this: you're 18-22, your head coach just got fired because the team hasn't played well enough to win football games, right? Part of that you feel responsible for. You come out and you beat Pitt. It's a great win.
Yeah, and a horrible loss for Pitt, too, as well.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect that with Slovis out there. Now, if the backup was out there, from what I've seen, I expected, but Slovis out there, not at all. I'm gonna go with the Ole Miss Rebels. All right, Lane Kiffin. I mean, you won a big game versus a top 10. I know a top 10 opponent. I know is at home, but it's the way you won it, right? You won it late, and who won it for you? The defense. And you don't really hear a lot being said about an Ole Miss defense coming in through the clutch, but they got a little bit better last year. And this year, they're even better than that. So they're slowly progressing to getting to where Lane Kiffin wants that personnel to be. It's a great win by the Rebels, especially winning late against supposedly a top 3 quarterback.
Yeah, well, in Kentucky, we talked about them being fool's gold a little bit, and that game played out basically exactly how we thought it was going to play out there at the end, the big play, the sack fumble against Levis. I think Ole Miss is going to be undefeated going to play A&M. I mean, you could legitimately have either 7-0, 8-0 team at Ole Miss playing A&M. You do get Bama at home. But that was big for Lane after coming out and calling out the crowd and the atmosphere at the games, because you can't call them out, go out there, they pack it out, and you lay a goose egg. And Ole Miss did respond. The fans responded. It was a beautiful setting for college football. You could tell how loud it was. You saw Kentucky struggling with it a little bit. So that was a hell of a football game. My worst, Wisconsin. I almost had my best as Illinois and my worst as Wisconsin. They played each other. You had a former coach of yours, Brett Bielema, who left there to go to Arkansas because the assistants weren't getting paid enough, whatever, come into your house with an Illinois team that's a rebuilding project. He hadn't been there very long. They beat you at your own game with your old head coach that runs that style of game. I mean, Chase Brown goes for over 100 yards, a couple touchdowns. Wisconsin's leading rusher, I think, had 16 yards If y'all are having to rely on Graham Mertz to throw y'all to wins, no wonder y'all scored 10 points. But Illinois coming in and beating Wisconsin at their own game. And it's kind of sad to have seen Wisconsin fall off. And I think you got to start looking at Christ on the hot seat a little bit, man. I know they like him a lot there, but when Wisconsin is getting beat at their, not just barely beat. It's not like you lost 17-14 and you guys both ran for 250 yards and just got caught up in the red zone. You got run off the field by 24 at your place when you have better players in Illinois, especially up front. That's coaching, that's preparation. So the worst for me is Wisconsin. But shout out to Brett Bielema. Shout out to DeVito, the quarterback there at Illinois. The Illini got something cooking over there. They were a surprise team for me in the Big Ten. They had that big win against Purdue at home where they were able to come back as well. So Illinois, man, my worst stuff for Wisconsin. Y'all better figure it out because, look, if y'all can't run the ball with success, y'all are going to make Iowa look like the Golden State Warriors. So you just better get ready for it.
Look, I'm going to go with Houston as my worst. We talked a lot about. Do what?
I say good. They deserve it.
Well, they were a top 25 team for the first week, beat UTSA in overtime, stayed a top 25 team after that. We talk about Clayton Tune a lot. He's a really good college quarterback, but you get blown out really by Kansas at home a couple weeks ago. Not blown out. What was it? 18 something like that.
They got blown out.
And now you lose another game at home. This time to Tulane. Now we saw Tulane beat Kansas State. I know that they're a good football team. I'm not trying to take anything away from Tulane.
Yeah.
But we've been hearing the Houston hype all offseason. It's another overtime loss at home for Houston. Just disappointing if you're a fan of that team.
Yeah, Houston, there is a problem.
Yeah, Houston and Fresno State have both been unbelievably disappointing. I mean, Fresno State's 1-3.
I don't know if Jake Hayner's back healthy. Is he out there?
Yeah, it's still though. UConn is such a bad. I don't want to say this in a negative light to make it look like what Jim Moore Jr.'s doing isn't as credible. UConn's personnel is very bad right now. Jim Mora is going to have to get some guys in there. I know he will through the transfer portal, but this is one of those wins that you can look back on when you're talking to guys in the transfer portal and when you're talking to recruits, saying, look, I know some of the games we played weren't pretty, but look what we can do. Look what we're kind of scratching the surface a little bit of what we can become. You can be the difference in us, this not being a surprise, and us being able to go out and not only be competitive, but win these games. This is a nice, and I know, like I said, Fresno's 1-3, but it's a nice mile marker a little bit for Jim Mora Jr. and them in his first year to be able to point to and say, this is progress.
UConn was one of the worst teams in college football last year.
And
Fresno
awful.
State was one of the group of 5 teams we thought, hey, if Jake Hayner were to stay healthy, they could really do something. You look at this win right here, and Jim Mora came on this show the week after he took that job, and we knew that he was going to turn that program around. I didn't think he'd be beating Fresno State this year.
Love it for Coach Moore. My worst is Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes special teams. You're up 39, I believe, late in the third quarter, and you faked a punt on 4th and 12. And what happened when you're up 39 and you do that against Rutgers? They absolutely speared your punter out of
I'd have done the same thing.
Then Ryan Day and Greg Schiano got into it. That's fine. I would have done the same thing. You go for it up 39 late in the second half. That's going to happen. You play stupid games. You win stupid prizes. So as me, Ryan Day, it's unnecessary. You're beating them. We know you're better than them. You're up almost 40 points in the second half. Punt the ball, and let's finish out the game.
Let's watch them. We have a clip of them getting into it after the game. This right here is just some old-fashioned, I'm pissed, you're pissed, let's be pissed together. Let's run the clip.
To the Ohio State sideline, and they got jawing at one another. Oh, boy.
Ooh. I mean, look, there's some... I'm not a lip reader.
Let them fight.
Yeah, but I saw a couple words in there that I think that start with an F, and I think that I know what it is.
Friendship?
I will say, Blaine, it is interesting to me as a guy like you who wants steroids and fights in the 7th inning of baseball, yet you're upset that they faked a punt.
Well, it's a difference between faking a punt and agreeing to go fight somebody. Like when you both agree to go fight, awesome, guys. You've made a grown-up decision to commit violence to each other, but then be friends. But if you're going to sneak around up 40 and belittle and might as well kick me when I'm on the ground and go for a punt when it's 4th and 12, when the game's over, then yeah, here, that's your punter. This kid's a 6'3", 250-pound JUCO player who just transferred here and who's pissed off all the time. Kill him.
Yeah, that's exactly.
This is what the Buckeyes do, man. He got it from Woody Hayes.
Well, again, maybe they're trying to cover because they were only at 39.
Hey, they could have covered. If you're going to do that, at least cover.
Two things on this. One, to me, this is like the equivalent. I'm talking about the punter getting destroyed out of bounds. It's almost like you hitting one of our guys in baseball, and we're going to hit one of yours.
Yeah.
You want to embarrass us by faking a punt up 39? Well, we're going to absolutely click-clack underarm style the punter when we get a chance to square him up. Second thing is, the one part, because I try and make sense in my mind of, okay, why would you do this? I don't think there's a ton of beef between Greg Schiano and Ryan Day that was like before this game or going into this, or there is now. But is it something you wanted to put on film so down the road when other teams are watching, they know that you will fake it?
Yeah.
You've shown a fake. Now, they would think, okay, you're up 39. Are you doing this to try and trick me? It's kind of like when you take the delay of game when you're punting to try and back your punter up to give him more room and the other team declines it. Like, it's, to me, I think this may be something to put on film. So now those special teams coordinators, when they're thinking about going after the Ohio State punt, that little birdie in the back of their mind goes, hey, they did fake it. They did fake it on 4th and 3. 4th and 4, stuff like that. Instead of going after it on midfield, do you go safe instead because you're worried that they're going to fake it? So there's a little bit of gamesmanship here, but up 39, man.
So let me ask you this, because you were a special teams coordinator.
Right.
How much of this has to do with you got the look that you schemed for? Like if you're a special teams coordinator, you say, if we get this look from their punt return team or their punt block team, we're going to run this fake no matter what the score is. And how much of it and how much of it is just, man, we just wanted to just beat y'all's
No, well, like I don't think it was a we want to score more points thing. Like sometimes, like with what we did, we had a read built in. So we rugby punt. So we'd read the in man when we'd rugby. And if he came inside and there was no help, we would take the outside of the shield and just lead him up and take off. And it worked unbelievably well. A lot better than I thought. Enough where the head coach was like, look, at first I was kind of skeptical, but it's worked like 4 times. We're looking really smart over here. Let's keep doing it. But I do think, and then like there's a counter argument to what I said earlier where you're like, all right, well, why would you show them one of the fakes that you have? That could have been a dummy fake. That could have been something that they may run a fake that's similar to that, but there's some sort of counter off of it. So that fake you prepared for, they know how you're going to adjust to it, talking about Ohio State. Do they have another fake worked up that assumes you're adjusting to their fake? I know I'm sounding like the coach from The Waterboy right now. He's like, everybody get around. He's like, he's going to pretend to fake. No. He's going to think about pretending to fake. But look, you can't do that.
Part of this is this is the Buckeyes mentality. This is why they're so good. Comes all the way from Woody Hayes, man. They asked Woody Hayes why he went for 2 after drumming Michigan, and he said, because I couldn't go for 3.
That's great. Hey, one more from the Boost Club real quick, Blaine. Let's get to the next segment.
$1.99 donation from Steele Smith.
Steele
says Jimbo's offense scheme expired in 2014.
Well, again, we always go. I don't want to relitigate this again. That's funny, by the way. That's pretty good. I've never heard that one. The scheme is one thing, all right? Some schemes are better than others, okay? Typically, schemes that are better than others are the ones that fit your personnel the best. But A&M has no vertical threat. A&M does not scare you down the field. That's why it looks, if you're an A&M fan, when you watch them play offense or just a football fan in general, it looks really hard, right? Every yard, it looks really hard. The timing looks thrown off. The consistency isn't there. I think sometimes we put too much into the scheme because there are a lot of schemes, as I say on the show, I feel like every day, there are multiple schemes that have won national championships. There are a lot of schemes and play callers that look really good when they have really good players. There's a lot of good play callers that look really bad when they have bad players. A&M needs better players on the outside. A-Chain is a dog. We know that. He can play. We know Anaya Smith was a really good player. They have talent. They have young talent. Evan Stewart, going to be really nice. But A&M does not have that guy that you look at and you go, I am scared of this guy to run a vertical the whole game. Or I can put two guys, one guy on each side and threaten the defense evenly across the board. A&M can't. And people are saying, you know what, A&M? If you're going to beat us, you're going to have to throw it down the field to beat us because you're not going to line up and run power and run split zone and run counter and run ISO and run trucks and run stretch and do all these things and beat us. You're not going to score 30 points against us doing that because A&M isn't good enough up front, in my opinion, to do that. But also, they don't have the weapons outside to threaten you enough to open up things in the underneath. So make fun of the scheme. I get it. It's not sexy. It's not cool. And most importantly, it's not working. That's the thing. But it's more than just offense that's costing A&M. Coney, what do we got next?
All right, best and worst for the NFL.
Yes. All right, I'll start. Best. Cooper Rush. Hashtag rush hour. First Cowboys quarterback to win his first 4 starts. Look, was it against the best competition? No. But what do we say here all the time? You can only play the teams that are in front of you. And we're going to find out Schedule gets a little harder for the Cowboys. But come on, guys. Cooper comes into town. You can get it for what? A fourth of what you're paying Dak? Mm-hmm. And look, I like Dak. I think Dak's a good dude. I don't think he's this quarterback that's going to lead the Cowboys to the promised land anytime soon. But four starts in a row hell, it's one thing for the Cowboys to win 4 games in a row in general. It's another thing for Cooper Rush, to put on his green hawk hat and come in there and save the day as the quarterback. Now, again, he's not going in there and throwing for 800 yards, and the Cowboys' defense is the reason that they're winning. I get that. I think it's the best best defense statistically they've had since 1973. So the Cowboys' defense is playing really well, but Cooper Rush is not losing the game. He's throwing the check down when he needs to. He's not terrible on third down, and he's winning. That's what counts. Jerry Jones
throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb.
He's throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb. If I'm CeeDee Lamb, I'm like, look, Dak, man, Fallout Boy, thanks for the memories, even if they weren't so great. But can we get Cooper Rush in here? Because Cooper Rush is like, down, set, CD. I'm throwing it to you. Down, set, hut.
But Fallout Boy, literally.
Yes,
that's
exactly
boy.
right. And not Post Malone.
Fallout Boy, I love that. That was good, Dave.
You like that? Let's stay in the NFC East for mine.
Okay.
Let's go Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
The Giants. How about, Daniel Jones injured yesterday. Tyrod Taylor comes in. He gets injured too, goes concussion protocol. Who's going to play quarterback? Guys, don't worry about it. Saquon's back there. Snap the ball to him directly. Actually, we cut out the middleman. Let's just do that.
Exactly.
Snap the ball to him in the fourth. He goes for 146 on 34 carries. Boys, listen, the Giants are 3-1.
Most important thing about that stat line? Yeah, Giants are 3-1. The Jets are 2-2. I had a tweet yesterday that said the Knicks better figure it out. Like everybody else in New York is figuring out.
Yeah.
The Knicks better make some adjustments really quickly. But I do want to say the most important stat, I think, isn't the yardage in there. It's 34 carries. You want to know 31. If Saquon Barkley is healthy or not? You want to know if that Brian Daboll and that staff believe he's healthy or not? They gave him the rock 34
After coming back off that injury, man, he's healthy.
McCaffrey ain't getting the ball 34 times.
No. I mean,
Saquon's slowly turning what Saquon was supposed to be in the NFL.
Exactly. Well, and he was that the first year. He balled
but after
first
that
year. But he got an injury, but to come back off an ACL like this is very impressive. Just snapping the ball.
Leading rusher in the NFL, right?
I
Something like that. Our number one fantasy running back in the NFL.
He's the most points in fantasy. I think
Nick Chubb has the most.
Still the leading rusher.
I think Chubb has the most overall yards.
Saquon might have the most yards in general.
That may be true. But if you're a Giants fan, they have the Packers next, right? But if you're a Giants or a Packers fan, you want to go to that game.
Yeah.
You got to go all the way to London. Sorry, boys.
Yeah, enjoy that.
Hate those games. All right, my best Seattle Seahawks. They score 48 points.
Yeah,
Geno throws for over 300 bills, 300 yards. I mean, you have a 150-plus yard rusher. DJ Metcalf has like 150 yards. Of course, I'm playing against DK Metcalf has 150 yards. Of course, I'm playing against him this week. He hadn't had over 5 catches the entire year. So it's great for them. I mean, you're really looking up. You beat a Lions team who's good. I know they're down the Sun God and DeAndre Swift. Shout out my fantasy team. But if you're Seattle, I mean, you lose Russell. I mean, things aren't looking great over there in Denver. Geno, every other week, is blacking out for 4 quarters and throw for 300 yards one game. So, I mean, Seahawks could be worse.
Yeah, and it's funny, they talked about Pete Carroll wanted to get back to, like, when they were winning with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks going to Super Bowls, defense and running game, and you're like, we're going to get back to that. Oh, no, Geno Smith's going to throw for over 300 yards. That game was just absolutely
They combined for 93 points.
Yeah, and you would think that the Lions, the best players on offense, Hawkinson actually played and balled, but the Lions' best players offensively were on the bench. The Seahawks, we know, haven't been the Globetrotters exactly on offense. And that game, you could, every time you looked up, somebody was scoring a touchdown. It just goes to show you, the NFL, that's why I bet in the NFL. I'm very leery about it. Went 4-2 yesterday, hit both the dog bets. Feeling really good about it, especially the Chiefs when I took them at -1.5 at like +105. I felt like that was stealing with the Buccaneers. I know the Buccaneers returned some players, but they're still beat up front. My worst, Baker Mayfield. But he makes fun of Kirk Cousins. Can't win on Monday. Well, Baker Mayfield's an absolute 5-alarm flaming disaster fire right now. All right, 11 passes batted down, leads the NFL. Baker's not the tallest, but he's also not the shortest. On that 4th down play, I think one guy from the Cardinals had like 3 bat downs. I think he had as many blocks as Giannis Antetokounmpo did a game in the playoffs. You got to find a way to get the ball out. That's on you. I know linemen need to get their hands down, but sometimes it's coming on the hot where you don't have enough people to block it. You got to get the ball out and find a way to get to the receiver. Second thing, you have three or more turnovers in the game yesterday. That's the 10th time you've done it. Leads the NFL. So you lead the NFL in passes batted down. You lead the NFL in 3 or more turnovers in a game. That's not what you want to lead the NFL in, and you're 1-3 right now with the Panthers, and they are booing you like a room full of ghosts.
Bad situation there. I'm going to go with the Commanders right now. 25-10 loss against the Cowboys. Before the season started, I wasn't expecting that much from the Commanders, so they probably wouldn't have been on one of my worst lists. But you figure out a way to beat a good Jaguars team, and since then, they've lost 3 straight. They have the weapons. Jahan Dotson has really come into the league and shown how great he can be. You're utilizing Curtis Samuel in a good way. I think Carson Wentz has at least stayed healthy and shown you what he can do when he stays healthy. So they have the pieces there, but it's just not working out right now. Let's see what happens throughout the rest of the schedule.
Give me the Ravens in the second half.
What's
I don't know. I mean, let's go back to the Dolphins game. You give up 28 in the fourth quarter, and you absolutely had
that's hard to do.
Let's go to the Buffalo Bills game. You don't score a point in the second half with Lamar Jackson in that offense. So right now, this is somewhat of a veteran team. I mean, Coach Harbaugh does a great job. You never really hit him on a second half adjustments. But right now, this Ravens team, that first half is looking how they're supposed to look. But that second half, they're coming in way, way short of what you need to be, especially you're going through the year and late in the playoffs. The Ravens are slowly turning into a team I can't trust late in games. And I wouldn't thought I'd say that about a Coach Harbaugh coach team who runs the ball and plays defense, but they're making the mistakes late in games you usually don't see from a Ravens coach team.
And the game yesterday, Lamar, for the first time of this year, missed a couple throws that I know he wanted back. He's been throwing at a level that I haven't seen him throw it. The running game with Lamar is going to be good, but he had Mark Andrews one time wide open for a touchdown that he overthrew. There were 2 or 3 other passes where he didn't get it out on time, and the ones that he did get out on time were not on the mark, where guys were, open in the NFL, which is a little bit different than open in college. But I mean, yesterday, I got one of my bets was I had the Ravens plus 3.5. And, I got the hook. It was +3, so I got the hook at 3.5 on the alternate line on DraftKings. Use that code Booster, and you'll get some free money. You're welcome. But I'm sitting there, it's 20-3. And I'm like, all right, I know the Bills aren't going to quit. I know Josh Allen. I know how talented this team is. So I think the game may get close, but I think the Ravens will be able to score enough points where I can feel comfortable about them, getting the 3.5 and being able to cover that. Maybe the Bills come back and go crazy in the second half and they kick a field goal to win. I'm sitting there going into the fourth quarter like, you got to be kidding me. Ravens can't move the ball on offense. The Bills are moving it at will, doing whatever they want. Josh Allen's converting on third down, left and right. The pass game, the run game's getting mixed well. He looks comfortable in the pocket. And it's at the end, and I'm having to sweat this thing out.
Yeah.
And now the Bills did end up driving the ball down and kicking that field goal to win. But it was touch and go there going into the fourth quarter. I mean, not even halfway through the fourth quarter did I start to worry. It was going into the fourth quarter because I looked and I was like, all right, I can go ahead and feel pretty good about the Ravens covering, which is the worst thing ever of all time, because that's the moment when the other team starts to come back. So I'm with you, Blaine. I mean, they got to be able to figure it out.
You know who that defensive coordinator is for the Ravens? That's Mike McDonald.
Yep.
He was Michigan's defensive coordinator last season, where Jim Harbaugh got from the Ravens the year before. He was the linebackers coach for his brother. All those coaches, I think, either with Jim or John.
Look, they all, Jim, John, Jack, Jill, Jeffrey, and Joseph. I mean, they all know each other.
Man. All right, let's go to Ty Reitz, little $2 donation.
Hey, Reitz.
Hi, thanks, buddy.
Wow.
He says, y'all's optimistic view of the dogs give me hope. Man, I don't know why you wouldn't have hope.
Well, again, so here's what I said yesterday, and I hate to relitigate it, but it's Georgia to me, and everybody's like, oh, well, they struggled a couple games. It's very hard to get through a season, to get your guys up, even at a place like Georgia, even with a motivator like Kirby, to be able to get up and play at the highest level or at the level they were playing at the first 3 games for the whole season. It's damn near impossible. Okay, that's the trick. That's the whole trick, trying to get your guys to get up, to play as clean, accountable, disciplined, organized, and hard as possible every single game, regardless of the opponent. They know who Kent State was. They know who Missouri was. Now, is that an excuse? No. Is there an excuse for giving up 6 plays of over 20 yards against Missouri, including a couple on the ground? No. But you won the game and you got through it. It's like that couple that's been married for 60 years, and we talked about it on the recap. And you're like, oh, you tell them there at the end, it's like, oh, they're so cute together. Y'all been through world wars together and the Great Depression and a bunch of stuff. And has it always been good? Then they'll tell you, there's been rough patches. There's a year in there. Like yesterday where Don went off with some girl from the pickle factory for 6 months.
The pickle factory.
Yeah,
I'm just
saying. Like that's the thing. And we had to patch it, or maybe, we weren't getting along for 6 months. Something happened, Rhonda got laid off cutting hair. So she was just around the house having to take care of the kids, getting pissed. And then we were both mad at each other. Like, you go through rough patches to a season because it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Georgia's very, very talented. They're not going to play bad a lot. So that they played bad 2 weeks in a row, everybody's freaking out.
You just painted me a whole picture of a nice couple there, Rhonda and Tom.
Rhonda and Tom.
One works at the pickle factory.
Yeah.
Got his pension. You
Yeah.
know, Rhonda was cutting hair.
He was
for
the
a
one who
long
did
time.
that, made sure the
Got
jars
laid
were on
off.
tight in the assembly line.
Yeah, that's an important job.
It is, but you
matters.
can ask him. It's just that's how it is. The season's like a long relationship. You got some good, you got some great.
Yeah.
Remember the time we drove to the Grand Canyon with the kids and took all the pictures and sat at the diner and ate hamburgers, and then you had the bad times. You remember when little Anthony ran away because he forgot to do his project and he got a spanking from mom, and then mom said, "Wait till your dad gets home," and we had to go find him. Almost had to call John Walsh.
You should write a book. You should write a book about.
I'm just telling you, that's the best analogy I
Rhonda
can
and the
give.
pickle factory.
Let me
Rhonda
and the pickle factory. Let me ask you guys this as Auburn fans. Now you've seen
Auburn fan?
back-to-back weeks here. Georgia against Kent State, Georgia against Missouri. Don't look at me like that, Blade.
No, David.
Is there any
No.
confidence? Is there any
there's no
confidence this weekend that Auburn could pull the upset, pull the unthinkable, Jake, go in between the hedges, get the victory,
We have a better
save Brian
There's a
Harson's
better
job.
chance of Joe Biden getting out of one of those rooms where it's nothing but mirrors. There's a better chance of him somehow making it out of that room than Auburn beating Georgia on the road.
He's got no shot.
There's no shot he makes it out of that. He'd just be going up
But
trying to
even
shake his own hand.
Even he has a better shot than Auburn going to Georgia. What are you going to do? Not going to run it. You're for sure not going to throw it. And the things Brock Bowers is going to do to Auburn. Oh, that was a good one, Blaine. All right, guys, hope you're enjoying the content. Do us a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that bell for notifications. We put out more content than anybody. That's what happens when you cover sports like a warm blanket in the wintertime, Cone.